Welcome back as we continue our wonderful journey in core mathematics. My name is Nanaya Oedu, and you can call me Nana. Remember to share this video, like this video, comment at the comment section if you find anything interesting or you have any question to ask. And don't forget to click on the notification bell and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can get all the videos. I hope you are learning, you are finding progress, and you are really finding the mathematics interesting. In our previous lesson, we've considered the parallel lines, we've considered perpendicular lines, and the transversal. So in this lesson, we want to look at how these parallel lines, perpendicular lines, and transversal relate with angles. So we'll consider how they relate with angles. So we'll look at the different types of angles that are formed from parallel lines, perpendicular lines, and the transversal. So let's move in and look at these angles. So let's consider our parallel lines. So we know that the line 1 and line 2 are parallel, right? And we know that the black one here is a transversal to the line 1 and line 2. Once we put a parallel line together, so for instance, once we have a parallel line here, let's call this A and B. And then we have another parallel line, let's call it C and D. Once we put a transversal through it, right, we form some angles. So we see that an angle is formed here, an angle is formed here, an angle is formed here, an angle is formed here. We see that an angle is formed here and here, then here and here. So those angles are the ones indicated by the letters A and B, C and D. We have P and Q, R and X. Now let's consider the different types of angles that are formed from these parallel lines and transversal. So first and foremost, we have what we call the corresponding angles, right? So we have what we call the corresponding angles. So when we see an angle B, the angle B here, which is on the outside of the parallel lines, it corresponds with the angle Q, which is on the inside of the parallel line. So we can say that B is equal to Q, and corresponding angles are equal. So for instance, if B was 30 degrees, then Q would also be 30 degrees, right? Now, look through and see if you can find another corresponding angle. I believe you found another one. So we have A, which is on the outside, and then we have P, which is on the inside. So we can say that A is equal to P, right? If it's an angle, we can put degrees there. So for instance, if the A here is, let's say, 150 degrees, then the P would also be what? 150 degrees. So we call these angles corresponding angles. So angles where you have one on the outside and then you have one directly on the inside of it are called corresponding angles. So we can also say that C and R are corresponding angles. So C is equal to R, right, in terms of angles. So if C is, let's say, 60 degrees, then R should also be 60 degrees. So these are corresponding angles. Now let's consider alternate angles. So one simple thing we use to find alternate angles is that we call them the Z angles. So when you create a Z, there is an angle that is formed here and an angle formed here. The angle formed here, for instance, if the angle is x degrees, is the same as the angle formed here, which is x degrees, and we call them alternating angle. So these are alternating angles. So let's consider this. We can see that there is a Z formed here. When we see this, we see a Z formed here. So the angle here and the angle here are equal. So C is equal to P, right? And we see that they are alternating, right? Can we also find another Z? So we can also see that there is also another Z here created here. So D and Q. So we can say that angle CD degrees is equal to angle Q degrees, right? So they are also alternating. What this implies is that if angle D, let's assume, is 60 degrees, then angle Q should also be what? 60 degrees. So it's important that when we have parallel lines, we'll be able to determine some of these angles, and it helps us when we are solving questions on angles in general. Now let's consider vertically opposite angles. So for instance, if you have angle at a point, the vertically opposite angles are opposite to each other. So for instance, if this is A degrees and this is B degrees, they are opposite to each other. So we say A degrees is equal to B degrees. The reason is that they are vertically opposite. So let's see if there is any intersection here. So we see one here. So the C and the A are vertically opposite. So C degrees is equal to A degrees. And we say that they are vertically opposite. Right? That's when we are considering it here. And then if we have R and P, we can say that R degrees is equal to P degrees. And we can say that they are also vertically opposite. Right? So for instance, if our R to be 100 degrees, then our P will also be 100 degrees. That's what it implies. So we can also say that X and Q is vertically opposite. Try and identify another two angles that are vertically opposite. I believe that you've seen that it is P, B, and then D, right? So B and D are vertically opposite. So we can say that B is equal to D, right? And that is because they are vertically opposite angles. And then we also have consecutive interior angles, or some people call it co-interior. So co-interior angles, right? So we are looking within on the inside. So when you have an angle on the inside here and an angle on the inside here, they form an angle on the straight line. So we can say that C plus D is equal to 180 degrees. So co-interior angles, the whole thing is that they add up to 180 degrees because mostly they are on a straight line. So you see that it's on a straight line here. So C plus Z add up to 180 degrees. And then we also have Q here plus P here. So we can say that Q plus P adds up to 180 degrees. So these are co-interior angles. So in this lesson, we basically looked at the various types of angles that can be formed when we have parallel lines and the transversal. In our next lesson, we would want to solve some questions on angles. Remember to share this video, like the video, and especially subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you in the next lesson.